This episode is made possible by Shin Yung Performing Arts. Experience the beauty of ancient China before communism. Don't you think the reaction to the confirmation of Ketanji Brown Jackson was just a little over the top? Here is a Politico article about the then upcoming confirmation hearings. Quote, "Let's walk you through how the confirmation of Ketanji Brown Jackson to become the first Black Supreme Court justice is likely to unfold this week."
Huh. That's odd.
No love for the first Black justice of the Supreme Court, Thurgood Marshall. No love for a current member of the Supreme Court, Justice Clarence Thomas, who's Black. No love at all. Oh my God, Black women were just wandering along aimlessly until along came Ketanji Brown Jackson.
And it's so true. Minority children across the board watching Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson gain this seat on the Supreme Court, inspired by what she's been able to achieve.
And then there's white savior liberal politician Senator Dick Durbin.
What will it mean, Senator, for the court, for that matter, indeed for the country, if Judge Jackson is confirmed as the first African-American woman to serve as a U.S. Supreme Court justice?
Well, I went to the Supreme Court this morning. There was a rally for the judge, and I saw a sea of African-American women there. They were moved to tears at the thought that she would get this chance.
A sea of African-American women. A horde of African-American women. A den of African-American women. A pride of African-American women. An avalanche of African-American women. And then there's MSNBC Hee-Haw's Tiffany Cross.
All right, this week, we bore witness to history as we watched Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson become Justice Designate Ketanji Brown Jackson. It has taken over 230 years to get to this point, and for the first time in U.S. history, white men are not the dominant representation of what so many have called blind justice on the Supreme Court. For hundreds of years, not only did mostly white men define the court, they defined the court's decisions, from upholding racial segregation to perpetuating voter suppression.
Before we move on, let me share with you something incredible. And that's our sponsor for today's episode, Shin Yung Performing Arts. I'm telling you, this is one of those shows that you just have to see at least once in your life. These guys portraying Chinese culture like you've never seen before. The story, the dance, the color, the music, everything is just sheer spectacular. And they pride themselves on showing you China before communism.
I feel better about the world. I feel uplifted.
It touches you. It really does.
The expertise of the dancers was really, really strong.
To know that it was live music was really fantastic.
We didn't want to miss this.
Make sure you see it.
Have to come. Life-changing.
I'm so happy to have teamed up with Shin Yung Performing Arts to offer waived booking fee on tickets to all Shin Yung shows, especially for our viewers. They'll be in the greater LA area from April 28th to May 29th. And they're touring all across the country, so if you search on their website, you'll find a show near where you live. So click on the link below to learn more. And the Reverend Al Sharpton, Democrat kingmaker, who became famous falsely accusing a white man of raping a Black teenager, in comes the slap against the racist Republicans, because after all, they didn't celebrate the way they would have had they not been racist.
As great as it is today for Black women, and for Black people, we all couldn't celebrate that together. They didn't even have enough humanity to say this is historic. And I think that is very telling.
Hey, it's historic, provided the Supreme Court justice is liberal. I ran for governor of California. And had I been elected, I would have been the first Black governor of the state of California. New York Times does a hit piece on me, never mentions that I'm Black, never mentions that had I won, I would have been the first Black governor of California. And I'm fine with that. But in the very same newspaper, the very same day, big long article about the first governor female of New York, because she had a D at the end of her name. I have an R at the end of my name. I'm no longer Black. It's only historic if they're liberal.
Well, this was a profound moment in history, and Judge Jackson, soon to be Justice Jackson, really leaned into the history that she's making. She talked about the fact that in her family, in one generation, they went from segregation to the Supreme Court. She also quoted Maya Angelou and said, "I am the dream and the hope of the slaves." She talked about being an inheritor of America's promise of justice for all.
Ted Cruz had a thing or two to say about that hypocrisy.
We will see Democrats in the media suggest that any senator that is skeptical of your nomination, that questions you vigorously, or that dares to vote against you must somehow harbor racial animus. If that were the standard, I would note we are sitting on a committee where multiple members of this committee, the senior Democrats in the committee, happily filibustered Judge Janice Rogers Brown, a very qualified African-American woman nominated to the D.C. Circuit. And they did so precisely because they wanted to prevent Judge Brown from becoming Justice Brown, the first African-American woman. Joe Biden was among the Democrats filibustering the first African-American woman nominated to the D.C. Circuit. The senior Democrats on this committee also filibustered Miguel Estrada. As the staff for Senator Ted Kennedy said in writing at the time, the Democrats filibustered Miguel Estrada, quote, because he is Hispanic. They were explicitly racial. If you are Hispanic or African American and you dare depart from their political orthodoxy, they will crush you, they will attack you, they will slander you, they will filibuster you. So this is not about race.
And after Judge Janice Rogers Brown finally got confirmed to the D.C. Court of Appeals, Joe Biden goes on television and basically says, if George W. Bush has the unmitigated gall to nominate her to SCOTUS, well, she's going to face a filibuster.
But I could see a circumstance. For example, if he set up Edith Jones, I can assure you that would be a very, very, very difficult fight, and she probably would be filibustered.
What about Janice Rogers Brown, someone else?
Excuse me, I'm no, by the way, I misspoke. Janice Rogers Brown is what I meant to say.
Oh, okay.
I misspoke. Thank you for saying
but
that.
wasn't she just confirmed, though? How do you invoke the extraordinary circumstances clause of the agreement of the Gang of 14 for somebody who's just been confirmed?
Because a circuit court of a judge is bound by stare decisis. They don't get to make new law. They have to abide by the, for example,
So what you're saying is the Supreme Court's different than the appellate court.
Ballgame.
Right, okay.
Totally different ballgame.
And get this, apparently Ketanji Brown Jackson had no idea that Biden and the Democrats filibustered her for 2 years, and then Biden threatened to do it again if she got nominated to the Supreme Court. Watch this.
Do you know Janice Rogers Brown?
Yes, I do know her.
How do you know her?
She was a judge on the court that I now serve. We didn't overlap, and I'm struggling to remember whether I ever met her, but she was a judge on the circuit court.
Right, and you were a district court judge, is that right?
I was, but I don't know whether she had
I think you were.
Retired
Are they in the same building?
They are in the same building.
Okay.
They are.
So you really don't know her?
I know of her, yes.
Okay. What do you know of her? What's her reputation?
I know that she's a very well-respected judge on my circuit.
Okay. And in terms of family, she was the daughter and granddaughter of sharecroppers. She was raised in Alabama under Jim Crow. Despite this adversity, she put herself through law school as a single working mother. That's pretty impressive, isn't it?
Yes, Senator.
Your background is very impressive. You seem to have a great family. If family mattered, we would not have done to her what was done to her here in the United States Senate. Do you realize that she was filibustered for 2 years when she was appointed to the D.C. Circuit?
I didn't know that.
Did you know that Joe Biden actively filibustered Janice Rogers Brown?
I did not know that.
Did you know that he told Face the Nation, if Bush nominates her for the Supreme Court, I can assure you that would be a very, very, very difficult fight, and she probably would be filibustered. Is that news to you, too?
Yes.
Okay. Now that you know that, how do you feel about it?
Senator, I can't speak to something that I just learned 2 seconds ago in your
fair enough.
conversation with me.
Fair enough.
And she said she had no real opinion because she just now found out about it. Here's the problem. Assume she had said, it was outrageous what they did to her. Then she would be accusing the Democrats of racism. Can't do that. If she said, oh, it's perfectly okay, that takes away the weapon that the Democrats have been using against Republicans for asking questions of Ketanji Brown Jackson. She can't say that. So she said, I got to think about it. Well, that's all for today's Larry Elder on YouTube. We're now showing a shorter version of our show on YouTube. That's after being censored and demonetized for a whole year. Full episode can be watched on our website, epictv.com/Larry Elder. That's epictv.com/Larry Elder. All the links are in the description down below.